So in 2012, Kenya's cabinet, by then I think it was led by the late President Mwai Kibaki, who happens to be the third president of Kenya, banned the importation and local production of GMO crops. Reason was there's a French company that did some research and linked GMO foods to cancer, and they did these tests in rats. So as a result, Kenya banned importation of GM. GM basically means genetically modified foods. So fast forward 10 years later, this year, the new government led by President William Ruto has actually lifted that ban. In essence, allowing importation of the genetically modified crops and also animals, by the way. So at the time of this shooting, Bill Gates is actually in the country, and word has it that he's here because of genetically modified crops importation. For lack of a better word, he wants to dump GMO foods or GMO plants in Kenya. And of course, that comes, of course, with pressure from, these foreign countries. But that is just speculation. But of course, we know, as we say in Kenya, where there is smoke, there is fire. You can see here, palipo na moshi hapakosi moto. So there might be some truth in that. Only time will tell. Now, as you can see, even where we are at the farm, we've actually experienced prolonged droughts. The camera can actually just show how the area is dry. In fact, this is one of the reasons why we've not yet started planting. And if you can actually check those plants behind the camera, they actually look very dry. So we've had prolonged drought in Kenya, and for the past 3 years, it's been crazy. And some people say this is the worst drought that we've ever experienced for the past 40 years. Meaning the last time we experienced this was around 1980. Wow, that's long. So I think this could be the reason why the government has decided to lift that ban, because as you know, food security has been an issue in Kenya. And one of the reasons why GMO has been, on the rise, not only in the US, but other countries, is basically because of food security. So basically this could boost research and development in biotechnology and, alleviate food insecurity, especially in our country, Kenya. But the question that lingers in everybody's mind is, has Kenya made the right decision in lifting that ban? So today we're going to discuss that. But before that, this is Africa Farming. As always, my name is Samuel. This channel is for new entrants in farming and new generation farmers who are willing to learn new farming practices. So if this is your first time to watch our videos, kindly go and subscribe, and of course hit the notification bell so that YouTube can always notify you whenever we have a new video posted. And to our avid subscribers, asanteni sana, thank you so much for always coming back to watch our videos. Make sure you like, share, comment, send us your feedback. And for those people who would want to check the behind the scenes of all these shoots, what is happening in the farm, you can always connect with us on our social media pages, Instagram at Africa Farming KE, Facebook Africa Farming, Twitter at Africa Farming KE, and of course we'll be able to link up. So generally today we're going to discuss what GMOs are, their advantages and disadvantages, and in our opinion, whether we think that is something that you can try as a new farmer. Of course, we know after the lifting of this ban, this will be a common thing in our African, or rather in the Kenyan market. So expect to see that. For those people who are visiting our country, also expect to see more of GMOs. But today we want to discuss the merits and demerits. And of course, there are people who don't know what GMOs are. Now, GMO basically means genetically modified organisms. They can be both plants and animals, but their genes have actually been modified in a process called genetic engineering. So with the lifting of the ban, it's essential that Kenyans and people who live in countries where GMO has actually been allowed to know what is in it for them, health-wise, money-wise. Economy is all about health and also the financial bit. So today we want to discuss that. So firstly, with the lifting of the ban, it means we'll have increased food production, which in essence basically will try to eliminate hunger in Kenya. We've had cases of hunger. Even currently, people are dying. Animals and human beings are actually dying because of drought. and this drought causes hunger. So we've had hunger-stricken families. Most people are losing their lives just because of these. So GMO in some way will help, eliminate hunger because it will increase food production. Another thing is GMOs actually take a shorter time to grow, and in essence, this kind of increases their productivity in terms of, having a lot within a short period of time, as well as they are cheaper to, produce. One thing about GMOs is that they are resistant to drought because they're genetically engineered. They're also resistant to some insect pests. So you don't need to really buy pesticides for these particular GMO crops. So in essence, it makes your costs cheaper when it comes to producing them. That is from planting to the factories where they'll be added, where the value addition will be done, and of course to the shelves of your supermarkets. So it will actually make the whole process cheaper, and in turn, which in turn will make the cost of this food very low compared to the organic counterparts. So it means GMO foods will be cheaper. There's a video doing circulation of somebody, shooting the US shelves, supermarkets. I don't know, they're called convenience stores there, where he was actually comparing organic food and GMO food, where the GMO food was actually a lot cheaper compared to their organic counterparts. So definitely GMO foods are cheaper compared to their organic counterparts because it's cheaper to produce based on their resistance to insect pests and also drought. So you don't need to buy a lot of farm inputs to be able to, produce these crops.
Yebo, haya, angalia the shelf here. Koja. Haya. Umeona tofauti?
Tofauti kubwa sana.
Ni kubwa sana. Haya, look at this. Organic shelf, angalia. Organic empty. Miaka kamoja. This one, haka. Haya, ile kile GMO. Hiyo ndio GMO. Mnataka kula GMO? Ndio hii hapa. Haya, angalia, walabi wanayapa GMO. Angalia. Organic ndio hiyo. Ile mbegu mnataka kuua.
Na ile imebaki tu.
Na ile imebaki ndio
hiyo. Kidonda hili.
Hii imebaki.
Na tuwezi bagiria hii, sasa tutaiacha.
Hiyo mchezo ya GMO hiyo, endeleeni mtajua.
Because of their genetic engineering, GMO food actually are tastier and also more nutritious compared to their organic counterparts. That's why most people love GMO. They're tastier, they're finger licking and all that. Most people hate organic foods because, duh. But anyway, with all these merits, of course, we must have demerits that come with these. So the first and foremost, of course, GMO food have been known to cause allergic reactions to people who take them. So if you're allergic to some of these things, you may find allergic reactions when you take GMOs. If your body is sensitive, be cautious about GMO. Secondly, they're actually known to cause resistance to antibiotics. So this might actually be a negative to people who get sick and depend on antibiotics for that, because they'll develop resistance to those antibiotics. That is a negative. Thirdly, remember when we started, we said there was some research that was done where GMO was linked to causing cancer. So that is also something to worry about. I'm not saying all GMO food is bad, but there's some research that was done that linked GMO to causing cancer. So now, due to the ever-increasing market for GMO, these will actually have adverse effect on the organic export market. So for those people who are actually doing purely organic, if you used to export your organic, crops to some of these countries, especially third world countries, because to them cost is of the essence, and as we said, GMO crops are actually cheaper, it will actually affect the organic export market, because most people will prefer importing GMO food, right? So watu wa organic people who are planning on doing organic to compete with GMO, man, you have a lot to do, because at the end of the day, it comes to money. And if you don't have money, you'll have to, at the end of the day, opt for GMO, right? Now, remember when we talked about the merits of GMO, we talked about insect pest resistance. Now, this means insects will not actually prefer these crops, and in turn, this will affect their biodiversity. So one of the demerits of GMO is that they will affect insect biodiversity. And we know insects are actually useful in some way, especially for those people who are used to organic planting. Insects play a key role. So GMOs will eventually affect insect biodiversity. Another thing is that we have insufficient capacity to regulate GM foods in Kenya, because right now, if you look at the Kenya National Biodiversity Authority, it's actually limited when it comes to human and financial resources. So basically, when it comes to monitoring and regulating what type of GM we're importing and all that, I think we'll have a challenge there. And as a result, we might be able to, even in terms of even just differentiating GM to organic, because one of the requirements is that you must label if this is GM and this is organic. So we might have a challenge there, because you know how Kenyans are. Our Kenyan brothers and sisters from some regions will actually sell GMO crops as organic crops. So we might have a challenge there, because there is no investment in the regulation authority when it comes to this GMO. So as a result of the insufficient capacity to regulate, you'll find that Kenyans' freedom to choose what to eat will be curtailed, because now you'll not be able to know what you're eating. You might actually think you're eating organic, but in essence, you're eating GMO. And that will stem only from the fact that we might not have sufficient capacity to regulate what is actually being imported, or even in terms of identification of the kind of crops that are GMO and those that are non-GMO when you're buying them. And finally, very few companies are in charge of the GMO seed market. So in essence, it means we don't have control over modifying further this particular GMO crop. So if, for example, we find that some GM seeds are not, for our local market, most of these are from foreign companies, we might not have the control over the genetic re-engineering of those particular crops. So in essence, we are depending on those foreign companies, and there are very few, very, very few. If you go and research on companies that control the GM market, you'll find there are very few. They're accountable. And these are the companies that we've actually put all our confidence in with regards to the quality of GM food that is being imported in Kenya. So that can also be a demerit, in the sense that if we want to do or control the GM market, we might not be able to do that, because they are the ones who will set the standards for the GM market. So we should be cautious. So in summary, I personally don't think GM is the solution to food insecurity. I think what farmers need is access to water, which can be done by, drilling of boreholes, right? Digging of dams, and also agro-irrigation. I personally think that could be the solution to food insecurity in Kenya, but it has not really been emphasized on. I personally think that maybe the government should have, created some sort of public participation on this particular issue, to avoid, at least so that they have all the information that they need to be able to allow or lift the ban on GMO. Otherwise, I think we might not feel the effects now, but for maybe eventually after a few years, we might actually feel the negative effects. In short term, we might enjoy the effects of, the positive effects, that is food security, nutritious meal, tastier meal. But in the long run, we might actually fall prey to the negative effects of these particular GM crops. So at the end of the day, it's your decision when it comes. It's up to you to choose whether you want organic or GM. But it might be too late, especially if we do not regulate this particular industry, because you might not be able to make that choice. Otherwise, we are done here. I hope both of us have learned one or two things with regards to GM. And as the discussion goes forward, I hope there'll be some solution that will, cushion Kenyans against the negative effects of GM. Otherwise, if you're there watching this video, make sure you've liked it, share it with your friends, tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you've not watched all our videos, go back to our channel, Africa Farming, and make sure you watch all our videos. You can actually DM us on Instagram, Facebook, if you have feedback, both positive and negative, that will help us improve on this channel and the content that you want us to shoot. Today we've shot this episode at the Olosian farm, and it's still dry, though as you can see, rain is coming. I hope this rain will be a lot that will help us, do one or two things before we start thinking about, creating dams, drilling boreholes and all that. So until next time, wherever it is that you are, changamka na ukulima. Bye.